We're out live. Surprised me a little bit.
Hello, hello.
Hello everyone, and welcome to Ops Oops Origami after a very long delay. Oh, there we go. Yeah. How long's it been since we did a show? A couple of months.
Yes.
I'm gonna say long enough for this balloon to deflate.
uh,
I'm gonna guess June.
I think
okay.
it was July, maybe a little bit before.
Did you do one in Dallas, Brian?
That's a great question.
I don't remember. I don't think so.
Let's see here.
That's because you blacked out.
That's a good time then.
Quite possible.
Why won't it tell me 2 months ago?
July 19th.
Yep, July 19th.
Okay, well, yeah, like 3 months.
Yeah. Well, been busy. How about you
Yeah.
guys?
Likewise.
That's the understatement of the year.
Hmm.
Hasn't even had time to shave.
I know. Well, not the top. Is that still too early?
Wow.
Never too
Wow.
early.
Gotta be one of those days. What about you, Brian? And Catherine, I don't know if we've met before.
I don't believe we have.
Ah.
I'm
Yeah,
Brian's
well-
better half.
Oh,
That's true.
thank you for your service.
Oh, for your support.
That is one mission I would have never taken.
Nope. You say that now.
Yeah, what happened in Oregon the last 2 weeks?
Vegas rules.
Stays in
What
Oregon, happens
Portland.
in Oregon. Or wait.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Let's just
Chris,
say
what
there
you
was
got
no
for
business
topics
trip.
for us?
So topics. Well, first of all, let's discuss what we're drinking. I
Sure.
Yeah.
found somebody who had a connection to Canada, so I got myself some Canadian Carlsberg.
Oh,
I
yeah.
was just
Ooh, nice.
reading the label on the back of the can. It's very entertaining.
And
Is
what
it
is
different than the U.S. Carlsberg?
It is absolutely different than the U.S. Carlsberg. They
What is it,
don't.
Chris?
It's Carlsberg. The
I'm not familiar.
It's the elephant beer.
it's the elephant beer. It's Danish. It's actually one of the best-selling beers in the world.
Wow.
It actually does okay in the U.S., but like if you go to Ireland,
Mhm.
you might find Guinness in a pub, or you might find Beamish or Murphy's, right? Like
Mhm.
they all have their
Mhm.
different stouts.
Right.
But you will find Carlsberg in every pub.
Wow.
And frequently throughout Europe, you'll find Carlsberg. So in the U.S., there's just they just don't have
Saturation.
enough breweries, right?
Yeah, I've
So
never heard
they-
of it. I'm usually on the coast, east or west coast, and I've never seen it before. I don't know if
Yeah.
it's maybe a Midwest thing or just near the Canadian border.
No, like it's got national distribution. It's just unless you're into European beer,
Mhm.
in the U.S., you're probably not going to have hit it.
Probably
Okay.
need to look for it. It's probably not.
Yeah, I mean it's a pilsner, right? So like, you don't think, oh, I should go with the Danish for pilsners. That being said,
Yeah,
in
that's
Canada,
exactly what I think. It's definitely not way more rudimentary than that.
yeah, they don't have preservatives in it. They do in the U.S. So
Huh. I'm curious to try one now. Yeah, I forgot because they're like food regulations are actually like making sure it's human
Stricter.
food.
right,
Mm.
right. So like, there's an ingredient list on the back of the beer, and it's literally water,
Jeez.
malted barley, and hops.
Mm.
Okay.
I mean, I suppose they didn't include the yeast, but
You
then
don't
again,
actually.
it probably doesn't contain yeast anymore. So
No, it's a
Well, it's probably
byproduct.
not high enough percentage to need to declare it.
Yeah.
right. So yeah, it does taste different because it just like it doesn't go through that chemical process that a lot of American beer does. So
Let's try that.
I also have some Canadian moose head, but this was handy, and there you go. I don't have that many of them, so I'm
All right. What about you
drinking them
two?
sparingly.
Rationing them.
Yep.
Oh, I
Just
gotta
one a night. Oh,
probably can't see it. Bee's
Yeah.
knees.
Have you tried it yet?
Yeah, I had some when I was out there.
Yeah, I figured
So-
during the day or after.
After.
I was like, this
But
whole
yeah.
whole business trip is unraveling right before my eyes.
Drank two, brought the other four home, and then from the Japanese one, I think I drank one,
Mhm.
and then brought the other three home. So I actually had to leave my tool bag in Oregon to have room to bring the beer back.
Did you have them
Oh,
ship
you're
you
gonna
your
get
tool
sent.
bag?
Oh no, I knew I was going to be there 2 weeks later, so I just brought it back this time.
Nice.
So. Ignore that.
That's yours, Catherine. All you. What you got?
Ooh, black cherry Waterloo, carbonated water.
My wife has got this. That's sort of usually from Costco, right? Is that where they're coming from?
It's not a national chain, but sure, discount
Okay.
grocery store.
Yeah. My wife's been getting into those, and I actually really like them. I think the lemon one or something like that is actually really good. Been kind of impressed. They usually.
I did not realize that it was going to be different than all the other bubbly shit I've drank before, but it is.
Yeah.
The other ones taste. There's like almost like a bitter aftertaste that's like really sharp, and it's just,
Some of
it's
them have a
really-
lot more sodium, I think.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. It's one of the things I started looking for on the labels of them, because I was like, I looked at a can of one once, and I'm like, why does this have sodium? Like, there is absolutely no need for this.
It'll make
So
you
then
more
I
thirsty.
started, makes you like it more.
And it makes you more thirsty too, so it kind of creates this like spiral.
This one does
Yeah.
not have sodium in it, so maybe that's why.
Yeah. No, there's plenty of them out there without sodium now, but yeah, like 5-7 years ago, they were pretty thin.
I've been drinking LaCroix since I was like 15, so I didn't know it could be
Static
different.
water.
La Croix.
LaCroix.
Wow. Well, I am drinking one of those Gaijin Dreams stickmen.
Oh.
I've
The
seen
lagers
those
there.
at my house.
Just try them.
Yep.
They are fantastic. I actually liked this one. I bought both of them because they had cool names. Because it was from a pizza place. I'm a pizza schlub, and then they had the bee's knees that you guys have, and actually have both, and the Japanese lager, the Gaijin. And I liked this one more initially, but over time, like especially in the summertime where it's like really hot out, those bee's knees hit just like perfect over at Burning Man. But so it kind of took a pole position there.
You
And
had
I'm
to
not
drink
usually a beer
alcohol
guy.
because the water wasn't safe.
Yeah. But I was really impressed because I'm not usually a beer guy very often, and I really don't like meads, and so I was like, oh screw it, let's try it. Maybe I'll hate it, and it blends the both in a way that I really like, and I generally don't like either. So that's my praise.
Fair enough.
I'll have to catch that on a weekend, Brian, if you remind me.
Yeah. I
Caring's caring.
think they're in the fridge right now. So maybe this weekend. Yeah, because my lovely wife has stopped drinking during the week.
Yep.
I cut it back.
That's all right.
Well, it's no fun when you drink by yourself, is it?
No, it's
So-
lame.
Sad.
It
It's
is.
a sad occurrence.
I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not one of those people that's like, oh, if you're drinking alone, you got a problem. No.
No.
If you're drinking because you gotta have a drink, it's a problem. Like if you're drinking because you want something of that flavor to go with your food or your whatever, rock on.
Well, you're also more introverted, Chris, and I'm more extroverted. So when I get the booze in me, I'm a talker. I'm already a talker. And it's just like when there's no one around, it's like, oh man, I made a bad decision.
Chris, you're introverted?
Yeah,
I
in
have
real
been-
life, he definitely is not.
I have been accused of that in the past.
Really?
But it's been a good 20 years.
Okay. You evolved past or into something great?
I actually, in my heart, don't identify as either introverted or extroverted.
Yeah.
It's actually that dichotomy that has made me long search for math that is tripartite instead of uh, polar.
Mhm.
I haven't found it. Um, it's too easy to just break down the various aspects that you might use to describe things into either or statements, and you're just inevitably combining them to make like tri-legged systems. But like, there's a place for it. So yeah, I think there's a place that appears to be extroversion,
Mhm.
or appears to be introversion, that is neither.
Yeah, and that's kind of part. This almost kind of rolls into some of our stuff. We've been watching a whole bunch of personality videos and stuff because I'm entertained by them. But there's always a strong presence of people that we would describe as extroverts in like the sales positions, and this is like going into the snake oil and the sort of salespeople of like you got to razzle dazzle them with like numbers and things, and there's like so you're gonna be able to do twice as much work for half as much money. It's like I'm you're in my doubt character. You're in my doubt character.
So let's dive in. Our first topic for tonight is snake oil, and specifically the snake oil salesman. So let's talk about structured water.
Structured water.
So
If you haven't heard of structured water, by the way, it literally is a thing that people were trying to sell as a product. So,
Oh, like that boxed water. I bought
like
that.
it was real thing.
and I found an article on the interwebs that
Is this gonna make me sad for humanity that someone did something evil?
chemist explains why it's nonsense. So it's just
Oh.
people trying to market their bullshit in different ways, which gets to the heart of the matter, right? Like you do have those salespeople that are marketing stuff, and I will say that there is a place for good marketing, right? Sometimes you need a little bit of the razzle dazzle, like what brings you in. It isn't like for most people, it's not the flat screen of black text on white, right? That like, paragraph after paragraph. If that's your trade show booth, you're not going to sell much product. So I don't mind a little razzle dazzle. Whatever. I do mind when it goes beyond the gain interest of customer into otherwise worthwhile product, and it veers off into the world of like just lies, straight up lies. Like, hey, try my snake oil; it'll make you live to be 100.
Well, it's lies and ignorance. It can be either or both.
Sure.
And that's why they've kind of, I remember like in the earlier IT days, you probably all do too, when sales engineers wasn't a thing. And it was like you had your sales team, you had your engineering team, and never did the two ever really meet. And now there's like a much more propensity to have both in the same room with customers to make sure like marketing is going to be the snake oil salesman. Like their ultimate form is like straight up liars like that the only thing
tell
that
the customer whatever they need to hear to make the sale.
And so now we have these sort of like, and this goes with that extroversion introversion, there's sort of a balance there of like, okay, now we have the engineer to be like 100% uptime, no, I'll give you 2 nines, but we're not, you have the sort of cooler to pull it down, but without having either someone with ethics or someone with technical knowledge to know that, assuming they're not just lying on purpose, that they're just bragging or
totally boasting. Because the sales engineer has been around for long enough, like it's evolved into really just like frequently just another sales position, right? Like and it depends on the company and the team and whatnot, but I've totally had sales engineers that are just as much giving me the razzle dazzle. It's just wrapped up in techno jargon, right? Like, so I'm like, really 100% uptime? I'm like, well, not 100%, but we're going to give you 16 nines. Like,
If you deploy to our reference architecture
Yeah.
and buy every SKU we have,
and never turn it on, right? Like,
yeah.
pound sand, right? Like,
Yeah.
don't lie to me.
Well, this like the idea that I came up with. There was another content creator named Lawrence Systems on YouTube, where it was like Cybersecurity Month and like top 6 ways to determine whether someone's a security like a fake or bad security researcher, and then like because I've had times since I've gone into multiple businesses, there's like, oh, this is the golden child, like he's the god of Active Directory or she's the god of this email server, and then as they kind of start talking more, you're like, hold
But
on.
are they really?
And then yeah, that sort of like the reality starts coming down. You're like, oh, they think this like, and so how I would almost want to know like if y'all have signs of like early on, because you can always figure out a fraud after the fact or whether it's snake oil. But what are the sort of things, whether with people or systems, that you like, immediate red flags that are like this person's incompetent or full of shit.
Well, when they say always and never, that's straight
Speaking
up bullshit.
absolutes.
Yeah.
Um,
Unless they're Sith.
They
What
don't.
if it's a Sith?
They don't come to my store.
Mhm.
right. So, Catherine, I'm curious. Like, I worked a little bit in the PC repair business,
Mhm.
and we used to get customers that, like, loyal customers, would be like, "Oh, I'm going with the other guy because, like, they're promising me the moon," and they're, they told me they can get my computer back to me in an hour. Like, they can, but it won't.
Oh
be
yeah,
better.
I can always
Yeah.
have it ready for you. I can always have it ready for you to take home. Does that mean it's done? No,
Mhm.
Right.
definitely not.
So, and that's a question that I've got for you is like, what do you guys do to differentiate yourselves from the shysters? Like, I don't know how prevalent those people are in that business anymore. Like, I feel like that business is thinned out a fair amount.
I find that large, like, I don't even count Geek Squad or anything like that as competition, even though people go there, because you can't go and have your computer worked on. They ship that out to like Geek Island or something. I'm not even kidding. That's what it's called. Like, look it up.
I'm looking it up right now.
It's something like Geek Island. It's on the East Coast. Then there's
Surprised
more
they didn't go
like
with Best Buy Land. That would have been a really good one.
Best Buy. Ooh.
it's all
welcome.
gross. It's all smoke and mirrors. What we've been doing is not acknowledging our competition. That would be how we handle it. Like, people, there used to be another computer repair store a couple miles away, like downtown, small town USA. And people will be like, oh, I mean, didn't you used to be there? Or that guy built my last computer. And I was like, I don't know who you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not even going to acknowledge, because until there's someone that's actually properly competition, then they don't exist. And since I don't count Best Buy, and that other guy actually went out of business, that leaves the guys that do this after work, after hours, out of their basement. So they're available 5 to 9 p.m. Monday through Friday. And they might have really low like shop rates because they have no overhead. I also don't think those people are necessarily aware of all the things that are going on currently, because they're probably not working on a half a dozen to a dozen computers a week like I am. They probably aren't. And I also don't think they just have a stock full of parts available to them. I mean, if you're really, really hurting for cash, I guess one of those guys could help you out. But I just had somebody this week come in who had gone somewhere else, and I didn't even ask who it was, although I was curious. and they were like, yeah, my computer was freezing and they took it and did some driver updates, and now it's worse. And Brian's well aware of this because I've been texting him about it all day. But they didn't even try. They didn't even try. So it doesn't exist. So by just being awesome, that's my sales pitch.
Fair.
I think that's a good strategy. I employ the same thing, and basically you're bundling it down to work quality and experience of the user or the customer. It's like, and that's the same thing I try to preach to like other people. Like, if you do a good job and they don't hate you for doing it, you're gonna get more money in business. Like, if you're unreliable or an asshole or an idiot or a combination of any one of those, like, your time is doomed. But
Right.
I mean, it's not to say that I'm not ever an asshole, but it's usually warranted.
You balance it out.
Deserved.
One's fine. I'm an asshole.
I've decided that not everybody needs to be my customer. So if they don't want me to be, then they don't have to be. That's totally fine. I'm not even going to fight those people anymore.
Which really actually speaks to, because you see this on like the websites and like as a company, as a worker or whatever, like, it's a duality. It's like, if you have a shitty client base, well, guess what? Your talent level probably isn't that high. But if you're like, I mean, all the companies will have like, as used by Safeway and used by Fred Meyer and used by Walmart. It's like, there's peer review, I think, and word of mouth is like the most valuable way of immediately finding out frauds or bullshit, because you can just, hey Brian, what do you think about this snake oil thing? And you might go, it's a piece of shit, total liar.
Yeah.
I'm like, cool, done.
I mean,
End of that story. But if it's like, actually, dude, it's pretty good, I'm like, okay. Like,
that's like, word of mouth is the best form of marketing, right? Like, if somebody is willing to put their seal of approval, or at least their caveated, it doesn't suck. Sometimes that's good enough, man. Like, if somebody's telling me all the ways that something stinks, like, that's the information I want to know. If they're telling me all the ways it stinks and all they've got is two things, and they're like, yeah, but also it's kind of awesome. Like, if your complaints are, it's a little more expensive than I'd like, and there's this one thing that's super annoying. I'm like, yeah, but how's the rest of the product? Like, I have no complaints. Okay.
yeah.
I have no complaints. High praise.
Yeah, well, that's like our industry, right? Because that was the thing, is like, I've heard so many people who are new in the industry. It's like all I get is complaints. I'm like, yeah, man. The compliment is when they don't complain. That is like, you are God to mankind, and it's just a permutation of how many negative complaints you get, where like, 0 is perfect, which is impossible. You'll never get there. But like, 1 complaint a month is like, all right, yeah, you're doing excellent. If it's more, you're doing worse.
If a company leans into like something like a net promoter score, I actually really like those. They're stupid simple, right? Like, would you recommend this business to someone else? And it's a 10-point scale. If they've got a net promoter score of 9 or above, okay, yeah, that means like most people are giving you on average, you're getting a 9 or above on your rating.
Is this an unadulterated review system, or is it some BS like Yelp?
They're all BS Yelp. There's no way around it.
So net promoter scores are usually used as internal resources for companies to evaluate the quality of their offerings, but sometimes they get made public. And it's supposed to be sent to a customer after they have a service interaction.
So it's an after action review.
Right. So like, this is your chance to say, did this go well or not? And I work for a company who made it an internal metric that they wanted a net promoter score of 9 or 10.
Wow.
From
really...
every customer.
I really don't like when people have goals of review status, because that just means that you're just going to do whatever.
I was kind of turned off on it by it at first, but
I'm
when
turned
you think
off
about
by
what the net promoter score is about, is did you satisfy the customer?
Mm.
And I think anybody that's good at their job, overall will satisfy their customer. Because like if somebody comes
That's
to you
right.
for repairing their computer, you may not be like their favorite person in the world, but when they sit down and go, did they repair my computer? Yeah. Would I recommend them for computer repair to someone else? Yeah. Okay.
I'm a busy lady. I don't have time. I
Yeah.
don't have time to kiss your ass. Do you want me to fix it or not?
Yeah.
And that's kind of the problem. And Catherine, it's funny because I have a paramedic background, and it's like overwhelmingly the correct answer is the one that the people do not like at all and do not want to hear. It's like, okay, I can put a band-aid on it for $10. That'll last you to next week. Or I do it, fix it properly for 50, and it'll be fixed for the rest, for the foreseeable future. And they're like, $10 band-aid, please. And then is like, you can either take the stance of the customer is always right, or you were like, oh yeah, so I'm not going to let you choose the stupid option. I'm just going to take that one away and throw it.
I will
pretend
tell
it around.
people. I will tell people their options, and I will tell them that I will do whatever they want. I will also tell them what I would do, and then they need to make a decision, because I've tried to make people see things my way, and they just don't care, and it's not worth arguing about. I've got other things to do and other people that want me to do the things that I suggest. So if that means they have to come back and keep paying me, sometimes they do. And then sometimes they kind of realize, like, well, I should have just listened to you in the first place.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that idea of the customer is always right is like, it's a famous adage that gets tossed about.
No one.
I have never seen somebody that's in business for more than about 6 months that actually believes the customer is always right. Like, because you know what? When the customer says, I want you to give me the world for no money or for pennies.
That sounds like the guy that called the police on us this week.
Oh yeah, tell them about that one because that's fun.
I've worked mod pod shops. I sometimes I miss it, but only for about 3 seconds.
I mean, I don't know if it's off topic, but if you want to hear why someone called the police on our computer store.
Yeah.
So this guy is a lawyer. I feel like I need to point that out at the very beginning.
Catherine, just a quick question. We always had a term in medical. We call them frequent flyers, but I use that at like small when I was working at a computer shop too. Do you use that term?
Yeah. There are people that come in all the time. I don't necessarily know if he's that kind, but when he wants service, he would demand it, and he would demand it right now. And we do have a prioritizing way to prioritize things. So if you're down as an MSP, then those are your priorities. And the people that are just complaining about stuff, well, they can wait. So he's never had an emergency. But anyways, we are a reseller of antivirus, and we do not hold payment information. We just contact you in 11 months and tell you in a month your payment will be due for your next year of antivirus. And so we notified him 30 days out from the end of date, and he ignored it. And it came up to almost where he was going to be shut off, which is no big thing. We shut people off the beginning of every month. He started getting nasty and Yelp reviewing our business, claiming that by ending his subscription that all of his really important lawyer stuff was going to be exposed and vulnerable, and that we were liable for anything that happens to him. And these are all really weird words for a lawyer to use, not correctly. But he ended up getting frustrated with the fact he wasn't getting. Oh no, he's not a good lawyer, because we offered him to pay his, because he was on an extended trip and he was not able to come into the store or send a check because his long trip, he doesn't bring checks. So we told him that we have an online portal that he could pay, but there's a convenience fee of 5% of his bill. And he said he didn't sign anything about that. So he was going to have to spend a lot of money to have somebody come fix his computer, because he wasn't going to pay that convenience fee.
The $2.50.
$1.85.
Yeah.
It was
For a big
No,
$1.85
$1.85.
lawyer, that's
with his
not any.
convenience
That's
fee. So
For a good
anyways,
lawyer, that's not very much money. For a horrible lawyer, that's a lot of money.
that's his lunch money for the day.
so basically, he didn't like the way that the owner was responding to him, so he called the police.
That's a reasonable
What
way
was
of going
what
about
was
it.
his?
Oh, they were scamming people, so you need to call the fucking police. And he sent them to the location where my owner wasn't. So there was just another tech there, like, what?
So, question:
Totally unaware.
Did you get detectives or just patrol officers or?
I believe we had an officer, like as in captain, lieutenant, come in. They didn't want to come in. They didn't think they needed to come in, but the guy wouldn't leave them alone, so they came in. They don't find that there's a case, but now apparently he's calling the police department and telling them that they're obviously missing out on a crime.
So, I'm
He'll be loved
not a
very
law enforcement
shortly.
officer. I'm not an expert on law enforcement, but that smells to me like the police department doing what they're required to do, right? Like they will come out, they will investigate, they will find that there is no case, right? And at some point, this guy will find himself on the wrong side of a police department.
Well, I think
already
that
there.
he should already be paying for their usage of emergency services to investigate the crime of turning off your antivirus because you didn't pay for it.
There are ways that police departments have to handle those things. Those kinds of guys end up in front of judges. And when judges get that kind of case from a local police department,
of a lawyer that doesn't know how to lawyer.
No, I mean the lawyer will try to lawyer things, and the local judge will be like, "You go ahead and appeal." There's just very little patience for harassment of police.
I've had the police called on me as a salesperson because I wouldn't follow the customer's idea of what I should be doing, despite the fact that it was against company policy. So I get it. Like I had to be talked to about not returning something that was broken. So yeah, I get it. The cop feels dumb. You feel dumb. That person is enraged. I'm just glad that he never came in because, he was out of state and couldn't pay his bill. But yeah, that's crazy. That's why I also made the comment about Yelp, because he left a 1-star review and Yelp feels that our 5-star reviews are not important for the people to see. Only our 1.
Well, you have to pay for people to see the 5 stars.
And we don't pay. And
Which
we
location?
did pay, and all of our 5-star reviews were revealed, and then we stopped paying, and they all went away.
Yeah, that's how Yelp works. I mean, there's lots of videos about how they do shakedowns.
But they say that they don't do that. So apparently you can't even talk about it. And I mentioned, because my boss wanted me to pen a response to his Yelp review, I started bringing up Yelp. He's like, "Oh, you can't Yelp about Yelp. You can't. They won't let it happen." So.
Oh, I found his review.
The Yelp Mafia will get you.
Well, you found the review.
Yeah, there's a bunch of, and all platforms always go that direction, and that's always like the problem with just, especially for small business owners who don't have the ability to have a security team of some kind that can go, or an SEO team that will like unfuck what they've done. I've got a friend who owns a parkour gym that's local. It's family owned, and it's the same thing. People had a bad experience at a birthday party with the neurodivergent kid that like started attacking one of the instructors, and like, you can't boot it, you were mean to this kid. It's like, you're psycho kid. But they spread the word and they review bombed at Yelp, Facebook stuff, Google Maps, and it's like, and this is kind of ties in with everything. It's like, snake oil doesn't just mean vendors. It can be like shitty customers that like review bomb places, because I
things and make it just sounds so ridiculous, and it's not even remotely close to the truth.
Well, and you'll have stuff that's in reviews, and this is the other part of like snake oil on the customer side is, I look at reviews, either 1 stars or 5 stars, and I'll see stuff as like, this was only a 3-star or a 1 star because the delivery was late from, like Grubhub or something. I'm like, that has absolutely nothing to do with the business. Like, they did not deliver it. They just made what was the quality of the food? It's like,
so, I will say that, particularly with like a big or a clearly engaged Yelp customer or review business, right? There is a strategy to communicating with them. Like you give them a subpar review so that the ownership engages with you, and then you amend your review, right? Like, hey, I had a bad experience. I'm giving it 3 stars. Like the food was great. The delivery
Waitress
was
sucked.
slow, right? Like, oftentimes a business will reach out and be like, hey, sorry about that. Here's a credit.
Mhm.
And I've done this and said, I'm not I'm not going to take your credit. I just wanted you to understand that your
Mhm.
delivery was slow. Thanks for reaching out, changing my review to 5 stars. Right?
That's
Like,
definitely different than calling the police, though.
Well, I always do
yeah.
anyway.
Well,
That's when you know you did a good job. Like I call the police, like, oh man, Catherine did an awesome job on my PC, and they're like,
hey,
sir, fuck off.
can you guys roll up on Catherine's computer store, because they're amazing, right? Like, I mean, you know what, the cops actually need more calls like that. So, I mean, don't call 911.
Yeah.
Just
Well, yeah, I hope that, but that he wasn't calling 911, because part of my snarky review was I apologize to everybody who might have been trying to call emergency services, but they were investigating this crime.
Mhm.
There's a reason
The
why
bottom
I'm
of
not in
this.
charge of social media. Weird.
yeah, well, it's fine. So Travis, you actually brought this topic up.
Oh.
I'm guessing you had something on your mind. So spill the beans.
So the one that I want is like it was inspired from the video, but it's just something like because especially the moment because I transitioned over from paramedic to IT in like 2019 is when I graduated again, and I was just kind of like you have that imposter syndrome. You come in like, oh man, this guy, his name is Brian. He's been working on servers for 20 years, and then like you have that like. And they're talking acronyms, they're given like stuff, and you're like, okay, some of those words are correct, but they're not strung together, and you just start. Eventually, you're just like, "Well, this guy's an idiot. Like, he's been doing this 20 years, and like, how can we get to? Okay, we had B-Sides was a conference, a security conference that happened last weekend, and there was guest speakers. I've spoken at DEF CON. It's like, technically speaking, everyone who's given a speech or a presentation, whether, like this content here, how do you know we're not full of shit? And it's like,
Yeah.
you go into a conference, maybe that person lied to get there, and it's so niche that nobody can really detect whether they're full of crap or not.
Mhm.
It's so specialized. There's like 3 people in the world who could refute them, and they're not there. So, but everyone else is like, oh yeah, those words
Mm.
do seem to make sense. Like, how do you sniff that out? Like, after the fact, and I'm not interested in after the fact. I think it's fun, but it's kind of easy mode. It's like it's always you figured you got pwned. Okay, I got goofed on the vendor, but how do I tell up into? And this was like not just vendors, but I want like other full timers, contractors, just people that they're starting to tell you something. Like, how do you start like something's off deeply?
So
It can be difficult. Oh, go ahead.
you need to start watching investigation interrogation videos, like cop videos, because then you learn all the things that people give, like all their tells, all their lies, all their fidgets, and all their it really just comes down to like reading their body language.
Yeah.
That's on the
If you
cultural
don't
personal
know
side.
that what they're saying isn't true or accurate at the time, there's really no other way to find out if they're lying or full of shit other than maybe trying to gauge some of their body language or facial expressions.
So
Yeah,
I've
that's hard to
totally
teach
seen.
too.
I mean, no, it's not. It's actually really easy to teach. um, having worked
Well,
in theater communities for most of my life, it's super easy to teach. You can teach a monkey to mimic truthfulness, or at least
Yeah.
to mimic
Oh.
not lying.
I'm this is where like you're in those artistic and creative communities in which it involves people who are good at lying.
No, no,
Like
no.
we
I'm
already
saying
kind of we're
you
already
can
extroverted to some
you
extent,
can
but the people who
teach
are more
people
technical.
you can teach people how to avoid the things that are like the strong indicators of untruth, and it's relatively easy to wipe them out enough that your average person watching
But
can't get a
sometimes the
read on it.
removal of all of those itself is the sign that it's untruthful.
I mean, if that's your sign, then you're lying to yourself. It's something that the police will tell you is a sign, but that's so that they can prosecute someone.
Mm,
Absolutely. So the thing that you can do, you can get people to admit to just about anything if you push them on things right. Um, I know people that have been taught by law enforcement how to do that in certain settings. And those law enforcement people said, hey, just to be clear, these are strategies you use only when you're confident that the person is guilty. Now, if you are confident that the person is guilty, you have presupposed that they are worthy of using this tactic on. Likewise, law enforcement has this bias built into them.
Yeah.
Like
They need a collar.
they need a collar. And man, they are like, if you go into law enforcement,
well, then what?
almost
Then what is the way? What is the way that you tell someone's full of shit on the spot without anyone else having exact knowledge of what they're saying at that moment? There isn't.
there
The
isn't.
answer is there isn't.
I would say there is a combination for me because, like, I mean, I had 15 years on the street as a paramedic, and people are like, how do you read people so well, or you assume to?" I'm like, you get a feel for it. Like, if you're in customer service, like I'm guessing you are, Kat, like you do direct customer service, because
Yep.
if you don't hate people and you've done customer service, then you haven't done customer service at all.
I
It's
definitely hate
just
people, and I hide as much as I possibly can.
That is
Yeah.
not true. I've done a
he hasn't
lot
done
of
enough.
customer service.
You're
I've
like,
done.
You haven't had the police called on you and shit thrown at you. You
Oh, I've had
barely
both
did
those things
customer
happen.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
It's
I-
well, and it's
Here's the thing.
I've barely had to do customer service, and I hate people.
I absolutely hate individuals.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
when they're all the same that day, I
That's
can
the
leave
one
and
when
say
you-
that I hate people.
I've
your
had
humanity
days.
just hits that like pegged out, or like it's gone. That's it.
I mean-
It's dead.
Although I will readily admit that I have changed my definition of humanity. Right? Like, I think that there are people that rise to the level of human, but they're pretty rare. That being said, like our elevated primates that we live with en masse in society, like, you know what? I don't hate them. I just accept them for what they are. They're kind of
I
dumb.
don't accept that they
They're kind of
somehow
mean.
are so dumb and so rude. It's unacceptable.
So
But I would say there's
It
a
is.
combination. I would say like that's what I learned during my time of the customer service and healthcare is like there is a sort of there's an art to it. There's an art of dealing with people, and there's also like skill sets that you can kind of like read a book on. Because I've had tons of people like I've read the books. I know how to like take care of patients. I'm like, no, you don't. You're gonna experience people. But I've seen on the other side people who just like naturally pick it up and don't have as much skills, as much technical abilities of dealing with people. So I really think that there's strong elements of both. You could consider like speechcraft.
Well, I also
Yeah.
think it's interesting that I can have a horrible experience with somebody and they're going to get not as helpful Catherine because
yeah,
it's very
I mean-
hard for me to overcome someone that's being a total prick and want to help them. And then sometimes I can be visibly shaken by that last interaction and meet my next customer who's very sweet and is going to get all of the things they could possibly want help with. So it goes not just on the person that's doing the selling, but the person that's coming in and looking for sales, because they're going to get two completely different versions of me depending on how they approach me.
Well,
Sure.
here's an interesting thought for me, like, and this kind of goes back to our snake oil. Is like if someone's genuine, because I'm very probably similar to you in a lot of ways. Like I'm very passionate, but I'm consistent, and so if someone's full of shit, they tend to kind of flip flop between hot and cold within the same conversation.
Mm.
They're like they'll try one route. They're like, "Hey, Catherine, I really want you to just give me that discount." You'd be like, "No." You're like, "You know what, bitch? How about you fucking give it?" It's like you'll get a very erratic because they're kind of like dialing in Tokyo. It was like, how do I duck and
Right.
weave this? Like that's bullshit city. For me, that's one of my flags. It's just like
Yeah.
erraticness is like you're just doing whatever you can to get this sale.
And I don't
Or-
wanna do anything for you then. Like now they have to work really hard to get me to care.
I mean, I think that's the way that I approach how do you suss out the snake oil salesman from the really smart person that's talking about something that you don't understand, but are absolutely correct. You ask them some questions. You push on them a little bit,
Mhm.
and you see how they react. Like snake oil salesmen, you
Yes.
pop
You
them
can
out of their flow,
Mhm.
and like they're flustered and they're kind of angry.
They won't be able to answer questions that aren't on the script that's in their head.
Right.
Mhm.
I will say that I've seen a lot of them fall back on aw shucks stories and like, oh, this one time I had the big fish that you could never possibly be the big fish, and it went great for them. Right?
Mhm.
Like,
It's
I
like
don't like
I
I
guess
don't
that
like
goes
being
in
Yeah.
distracted by
FOMO, man.
stories.
Yeah.
yeah,
Someone
like,
pushing
Yeah.
FOMO is almost always full of shit. It's like
right.
you don't want
Yeah.
to be the cool kid missing out. Crypto fire festival. You know, it's like all these ones that are full of shit. They tend to be very much like you want to be left behind. I think that's one of the catchphrases.
I'm
of
really
the
glad that
bullshitter.
I've never approached anybody that way. Like you don't want to be the only one that has a broken computer at the house, do you?
I mean,
I mean, it's effective.
here's the thing. The number of people that take that tactic is actually really, really rare, right? Like it's less than 1%
It
of the
just sounds
population.
so
But
Well, the
they
direct
have such a
FOMO, but
large
it's
impact.
by You'll see it by proxy more often because people don't really have that like killer instinct to go for that. But they'll kind of be like, well, I mean, look at when sites have some sort of like companies big use them. That's FOMO. It's like, don't you want to be like Google and Apple and whoever's logo that we put up here that may actually not actually use our product?
no.
It's like that's like a low. I consider that a low key
I mean, it's
FOMO,
my
like a
favorite
proxy.
thing that
Well, this is the same
like cloud
antivirus
vendors
that
do.
Walmart uses. Oh my god.
I'm protected like Walmart. Dad, don't you want to join the club? Like,
No.
maybe.
It's my favorite tactic that big cloud providers use. Like, look at us. We've got, XYZ government agency that uses our services. Like,
We also have advertisement
sure you
that has
do.
all of our big hitters. So when
Mhm.
we're trying to recruit more business customers, be like, look who uses us. But that's real. So how do you know that I'm not just making this stuff up? Do you call all the companies that have
No.
logos on my brochure?
I do,
ask
100% every time.
I ask you in your presentation, can I speak to that customer?
Sure. Look them
That's
up.
fair.
Right. And that is the sign of someone who is not a snake oil salesman, at least about that claim, right? Like,
Mhm.
sure, feel free. They are an active customer, right? And a lot of big companies won't disclose that kind of information. But like, if you're really good at your job,
Well, you
they'll be
shouldn't
like,
close it. That's kind of like putting those stupid family
Well,
stickers on the
you
back of your
ask.
car.
Mm-hmm.
if you're really good at your job, like say you are Palo Alto, you should all like if Google is using Palo Alto on their back end, if you're doing your job right, Google will say, yeah, we use Palo Alto. Best choice we ever made. Here's 3
See, that would
YouTube
be the
videos.
worst product to who's using it and who isn't. Well,
I mean-
one of the worst.
Sure.
Any security product.
Mm-hmm. Well, but that's like
But-
kind of
but-
part of the gig, right? Is this like the association can work for you or it can work against you. I've
mean-
seen it work both ways, so I don't know if that's a reliable thing to use as any more like judgment call, unfortunately.
Well,
Yeah,
we're
I'm
also
just saying,
all
like-
more technical people. Does it work on a CIO?
Yeah,
That's a better
a
question.
lot. Disproportionately. Ugh.
Depends on the
Is
CIO.
do you have a full spread in CIO magazine with shiny stuff and a free Yeti or something? Like,
Kind of. You just made me consider what it takes to be a
Wonderful.
contributor to CIO magazine. I think I could bust this wide open.
Is that a
'cause
real
I'm a pretty good
magazine?
writer.
That's actually like a really good point, Brian. Is like that's another thing that I have that I like now I think about it is like petty like swag to give to particular like stuff that's aimed at CIOs or like this is it, you know I kind of think of it as like literal phishing is like you put shiny thing in CIO magazine is like oh because I know like every place I worked at is like the CIO saw it and it's shiny. I'm like well we're supporting this pile of shit. It's
I love
coming.
my Meraki socks. What's wrong with that?
I mean, by the way, CIO magazine is absolutely a thing.
Oh,
Oh
don't
no! God, of course it is.
It has like they publish a print thing.
like
Because the
quarterly
interesting
or
thing is
something.
like the number of CIOs, like or CTOs that consume publications in print is mind blowing.
Yeah, it's higher than it ever should be for
They like
technical
that
positions.
paper in between their fingers, huh?
Right, like
Listen,
it's not even
glossy.
like can I get it on my e-reader? They're like, oh yeah, I can get it on my e-reader, but then they walk away with their print
I don't
copy so they can
want
read
You
it on
guys-
the plane.
Use my
You know why they have it? They have it because they get it in their friggin' office and they put it on their fucking coffee table and be like, well, I've been reading CIO magazine for about a couple of years now. That's
You know,
the only reason
I've-
it exists is
no,
a
I've-
e-penis point.
I've known enough CIOs that like that is not their flex move.
VIP-ness.
They just
How many
they
phallic
flex in
shaped
the
objects are in that
weirdest
CIO
ways.
magazine? I bet it's a lot.
But yeah, I'm gonna figure out how to become a contributor to CIO.
That's not a bad idea.
Because it's
Go to
can't
LinkedIn.
be
Everyone's
hard.
a CIO there, or CTO, or
Yeah.
whatever. CISO.
No, like
Person shop.
the real trick is most publications are desperate for writers because people write so bad.
And they pay so shitty. That's probably
Oh
the
yeah,
more
no, they
don't
pay really
talk
shitty,
about.
but like I could totally make a TED talk out of this. And once you've made a TED talk, you have a speaking career ahead of you. I can go give a talk to some technology group like 3 times a quarter and get paid, a fat 6 figures for each engagement.
Be nice.
Nobody
It's weird
wants
with there's like
to do that.
even have like artificial shit within that because I didn't know that there's TED Talks which you get invited to, and then there's TEDx Talks which you pay money to get into.
Yeah, no, there's
Ah,
so TEDx is the expanded ecosystem, right? And there's TED Talks. Like if you see
the
TEDx,
expanded universe.
Yeah, they expanded their
you're-
bank accounts is what they expanded.
you're getting somebody who had an idea and they wanted to be on that stage. If you see an actual TED Talk, like that is a really well vetted, small ecosystem of presenters with strong ideas. Not to say that you can't get on the TED stage with complete bullshit, but it's much rarer. And those are the ones making fat bank.
Because it's like there's an interesting thing. So when I gave my talk at DEF CON, I went to the B-Sides that was going on the same week. There's B-Sides, Black Hat, and DEF CON Vegas. And the joke is that B-Sides is for DEF CON rejections. It's like the people who couldn't make it on DEF CON or whatever. So that's sort of like considered second banana to it. And I always thought that was kind of an interesting take is like, there's some really great talks that was over at B-Sides, but it's sort of that like you are, by participating in this and not that, you are given automatically a lower ranking, no matter what quality of talk you gave. And I always found that to be interesting because there's like I had a friend of mine give a talk here at B-Sides in Portland, and I was hoping to inspire more people to do like speeches and presentations because they have good stuff, but they're just they're like, oh, it's only this con, it's only Cactus Con, it's only whatever Hush Con, it's only this, and like to be on the stage with your peers that you did not have to pay money to get into, aka they actually like what you've brought. I think that's why I did it for DEF CON, and that's why I think helps a lot with the finding out who's snake oil salespeople and who's real. It's like most of these organizations, if you're giving a talk and you weren't paid to do it, that means one, you're passionate about it, and two, you were accepted and like there was peer review to get you into that conference. Almost everyone that I've seen, it's not like they just pull a name out of the hat. So peer review, like peers acceptance in the communities, community leaders, I find to be the most real people, at least in technical skill set. That seems to be a good. I go to RainSec, a group that meets up here in the Portland area once a month, and it's like, as much as I may disagree with some people, it's like they're all real. They're all very talented security people that go to like the community meetups are damn near 100% of like some people bullshit a little bit and embellish, but they're all at least like not completely full of shit.
I have one more way to test for bullshit, particularly in tech. If you look anything other than a little bit awkward and unprepared to give a presentation in the tech field, I'm going to start to test you about
You're
whether or not
comfortable
you're
up on the stage.
right. If you're comfortable on the stage, my bullshit meter is instantly turned to like full game, right?
So
like,
I have a problem with that, Chris, and I'm not like personally me against you. It is like I'm a very extroverted person and like super confident because of my background, and so when people like they see me, like I run my mouth a lot too, and they're like, "Oh, this guy's full of shit," and then I like actually teach a class, and they're like, "I don't know what to make of this." It's like
right, like I'm not saying that it's impossible for
No.
person to,
But you're overwhelmingly
right?
correct. I would
Right,
absolutely
like if you know your shit in tech, like frequently you don't want to talk to people. Like this industry naturally selects for people that like technology and not people.
Or
Right?
weirdos. Yeah, overwhelmingly weirdos in
Right,
some
like
way or another.
we like the tech, not the folks that use it. I mean, and don't get me wrong,
Typically.
I get up on stage and people like, you're way too comfortable up there.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like I am the
But
designated talky person on my team.
Yeah. But when you're doing it, Chris, are you like me where it's like outside, cool as a cucumber, inside, borderline chaos at times?
It depends on how much time I've had to prepare. Again, this comes from like the theater background. You never do a performance without rehearsing, right? If you're doing a performance without rehearsing, like
you're crazy.
no
Don't
stand-up
never do that.
comic does their set clean, right? Like it's your first 3 open mics suck.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, you're starting to get better, and they don't go on stage with a full set of new material that they haven't tried out. Like nobody that does presentation or performance for a living goes in cold. And the number of people that I see do that, like really well prepared, kind of outgoing people in tech that are like, oh yeah, I got this. And they go up cold. And it's like, well, it sucked just as much as it should when you don't rehearse.
Yeah, and I think that, I mean, that's true across the board with anyone. It's like if you're a naturally charismatic people person like me, it's like you don't have to rehearse as much. But if you're more introverted or just awkward with people, it's like, yeah, you should definitely be practicing more. But I think that's a totally fair metric because, I mean, that's just true across the board. When someone's like super confident, they step up to the plate and they point to the outfield and say grand slam time. It's like, all right, heard that one before. And I would say easily
you're either
9
Babe
times out of
Ruth,
what's
or
that?
you're either Babe Ruth or you're Casey,
Yeah.
right?
And like 99% of the time, it turns out that person's completely full of shit, or they just like, or they point to the outfield and they hit like a first base hit, and you're like, wasn't a grand slam.
Right.
And that's another kind of interesting question in here is like, okay, we have an MSP. I'll not say MSP. We have a snake oil person of some kind, full timer, contractor, vendor, and they point to the outfield. They say grand slam time, and where's your metric where they've broken your line of trust? Is anything but a grand slam? Is a third base hit good? Second base, first base? Where's the part where you're like,
depends on their
nah.
role. If they're
boasting and bullshit.
If they're a salesperson, like if you didn't
accept the lie entirely.
No, I don't accept the lie entirely. I think the salesperson's job is to get me engaged and convey information, right? If that information is false, I'm angry. I don't like to be lied to. If that information is within the realm of truth,
but what is that realm of truth, though? Given that analogy, and you can use whatever other analogies.
If they come to me and they say, I'm going to hit it out of the park, you know what? If you hit a triple or a compelling double, like you brought somebody home, got a double. Heck, if you brought 3 runners in, but you got out, like, okay, fine, right? Like I don't need the grand slam.
Okay.
But I do need, like, all right, if you're going to advertise yourself as like the second coming of Christ, then you know what? At least perform a miracle.
Yeah. So you would be compelled with a good double. All right, Kat and Brian, what about you two? Where's your cutoff point of boasting and bullshit?
I don't know if this analogy works because there are people that get home runs and it was because of errors on the outfielder's part. So I'm kind of lost.
Yeah, we can cover that in the next section. But yeah, the idiot savant or you just happen to check the watch when it's exactly midnight or noon.
Hey,
and
no, it is better to be lucky than good. And I'm not talking about the person that's lucky once. I'm talking to the people that are regularly lucky.
Routinely.
Like, we all know them. There's that one person that you're like, yeah, that guy's an idiot, or that girl's an idiot, but still they manage to like,
how's that better than being good?
It's way easier.
Yeah.
For who?
For them.
Them.
Person. Yeah.
So?
Well, like I have a real
if you could be that lucky, it would be that easy for you.
But no, that's not how my life is. It's more complicated and I have to do more work.
Right. It depends because you're not a lucky person. I'm not either.
I'm a very lucky person. I can very much vouch for that. We had a saying in aviation when I was in the military, because we had a helicopter, I had a pilot that said, Travis, this machine is an affront to God himself. It is not meant to ever fly. And so we start out with a bag full of luck and an empty bag of skill. The trick is to fill the bag of skill up before the bag of luck runs out. Like, what happens when that happens? Like, you're dead. I'm like, okay, I hope I'm lucky. He's like, me too.
Military helicopter, huh?
Yeah. So, but it's true with aviation. Any other high risk thing is like, you really do start out with a bag of luck, because like what happens when you're in, low risk environments, that's not a thing. But if you're doing like 911 shit and helicopters and shit, or aviation, it's like when you were in high risk industries, it's like there is a sort of like, not everyone made it out, or you get injured or something like that. It's
like base jumpers or free climbers, right? Like, yeah,
it's like a known thing
that live to old age.
Yeah, it's like, how did you get there? It's like, there was a good chunk of luck in there, like a big chunk. Because Phil over there, he pulled the ripcord, the parachute didn't deploy, he pulled his reserve, it also didn't deploy. It's like, bag of luck just emptied out, and the skill didn't quite cut it this time.
Right.
So there's definitely that degree of like, luck is a thing. However we address it in the real world, but I think that's something that just has to happen too. But to your point, Catherine, what about you, Brian? What's your number, or if you, Catherine, do you have a better analogy? I'm all ears for it.
I can't think right now. Hey, can you get down?
That was the best content we've ever had on
Yeah.
Just random dog comes up, starts licking her.
Yeah, there's not enough ear licking on this show.
Yeah.
Well,
Hey, see, look, I
You
said
need to let
I'm
him
all
know.
ears, and then the dog licks your ears. It's
see
perfect.
if I can.
Yeah.
Hold on.
See, it's luck, serendipitous, whatever you want to call it.
oh, Ziggy, you're lucky. Isn't that great?
Mhm.
Thank you.
I was trying to make sure Catherine showed up in the center so Ziggy could lick her ear again, but
Oh,
it
he's
didn't
coming
work.
up for more.
All right, round 2.
Bye.
We're gonna have to get the premium channel going on.
Yeah, sign up for my Patreon.
Yeah.
Hey,
Only pans.
Yeah.
here.
Only pause.
Oh,
there we
pause.
go.
no.
Aw.
Oh,
You're pushing. Ah!
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That's
We got
Okay,
That's a
some
good
bye.
lab or
boy.
golden retriever mix with like pity or something.
He's 100% pity.
Really?
Yup.
Wow.
yeah. Yeah, we didn't quite believe it either until we did the DNA test, and
Yep. Turns out
he's 100% that pit.
Yup.
Huh.
Yeah.
Interesting. Doesn't look it. Yeah. Cool.
Hey, come
Yeah.
on. Get
All
on.
All right.
So what about you guys' thoughts on like
Brian?
what's your bullshit boasting point?
I don't know. I mean, some of my red flags are someone that always knows the answer. Or always has an answer. Not always knows an answer, but always has an answer. I mean,
Okay.
the obvious thing is somebody that never knows an answer. That's too easy. The
Yeah, but that's
person that
after the
always
fact.
has an answer for everything. Very knowledgeable people sometimes have to say, I don't know, I need to think about that. Or I'm not 100% sure. No one always has the answer for everything, especially when you don't have a skill level to be able to actually contradict anything that they said. When
Mhm.
they can just rattle off an answer no matter what you ask, that's an issue. And
That's
also
actually-
someone that can't answer simple questions or answer questions simply. Like if you ask them a question about something, ask them to explain something that they talked about, and all they can do is regurgitate what they already said, and they can't actually go in deeper and tell you more about how something works, means they don't understand it.
That's actually the first point is really good. Like the first job I had coming back into tech was I had an asshole coworker. He was a little shit, but he had a question and interview that I thought was really good. It was like, tell me about the time that you made your biggest mistake and like how did you fix it? And
that
I
question.
had one person who was like, I don't make mistakes. And I was like,
Okay.
Liar.
either you're a liar or you have no experience that you haven't like tried hard enough to make a mistake. But
I
overwhelmingly,
don't
both.
do things
Yeah.
that I
And-
don't understand, so.
Yeah, that means you never do
response
anything.
Was like, it shocked me. I was there only 3 weeks. I'm like, I don't know why I'm into this stuff. And the guy's like, he says, I don't have the stories because I don't make mistakes. I think he said something like, I'm perfect, or I never make mistakes ever. And I was just like,
No.
whoa. So he was a hard no for them. And I'm like, that's actually, and I was like, that's a really good question. It was like, suss out who's willing to like
And
I would want to talk
yeah,
to those that person's prior coworkers, because they may believe it, but their coworkers will be like, oh my god, that person was a disaster, just a walking disaster. We were constantly cleaning up after them, and they could never understand or admit fault. That's worse. That's almost worse than somebody that's lying. Somebody
Oh,
that just
narcissist.
so
Oh, yeah,
so
they're such a
wildly
narcissist.
disconnected from reality. Yeah.
yeah.
I worked with 2 previous people that did that. It was like they, knocked this one out of the park as like there's just dumpster fires in their wake. You're like, really? You think you did a whew.
Some
Well,
people
okay,
pay
I guess I'll just
dumpster
grab
fires.
the fire extinguisher here and
Yeah,
take
for no
care of that.
reason. It's just coincidentally thing. I think what I usually hear with that kind of like mentality is like there is the mental gymnastics. Maybe that's another one of signs if there's mental gymnastics that are going on. Is like, I just happen to go through those 3 servers and now they're all down. What a coincidence! You're like,
Mm.
oh, this like it's never they never connect the dots to them. There's this like do, and then a last minute kind of like loop-de-loop, and then it goes off to something else. So like lack of responsibility or personal accountability and responsibility.
True. All right. While Catherine's relieving Ziggy, let's delve into flippers just for a minute.
No,
My
order
flippers.
is in.
Your
I
order's
got one
in.
on the way.
Dolphin or orca?
Yeah. 0.
Okay.
I think it's supposed to be a dolphin. I don't actually know.
I was totally joking. I don't know if there's if there's a model that is dolphin or orca.
No,
that's
I mean
hilarious.
like their logo. I think it's supposed to be a dolphin, just based on
dolphin
shape, face shape.
Let's see here. That is a dolphin.
It's not like one is it?
That is a that's a porpoise.
They're all porpoises.
So it's some
a flipper with a porpoise.
It's a flipper with a porpoise. Okay, so flipper 0. What do you use yours for?
Well, I don't have one yet, but I ordered one.
Okay.
I have one, and I'm not really at liberty to say on a public chat that's definitely being recorded. It is an experimental tool that I use for security research. How about that?
Yes, what kind of security research have you done with it?
IR retransmitting to devices like televisions, RFID captures for when I forget my hotel key at my hotels. I'm a very forgetful person. Very forgetful. I'm trying to clone the cars, but they do rolling codes, which makes it more difficult to do.
There's probably a way. Might take a little bit of development, but
it's very. So the interesting part too is since you got one on the way, Brian.
Yeah.
It's got an SDR, software defined radio, on it, and because it's going to a North America, specifically US customer, it has firmware on it that blocks out certain frequencies that are recommended by the FCC or like mandated by the FCC.
Yeah.
There is something out there called Flipper Unleashed. There's a couple other mods that will open up said frequencies for you naughty people in the audience. But it's the utility of in there is going to be actually strangely limited because like it tends to be a lot more specialty stuff even within those frequencies, and you're likely to cause havoc. So if you're just an asshole, you can poke around in that space. More the fun stuff is going to be in more the space that's going to be covered by the Flipper 0 native firmware. So there's not a undying need to unlock the firmware, but for those who are just curious, most of the devices that you're going to be tinkering with operate in those frequencies that are not regulated by the FCC.
Okay.
There's some interesting videos of someone who hooked one up to like a major powerful antenna and was like blasting out Tesla, like I think trunk unlocks or something.
Oh,
and it was just like blasting his neighborhood and opening garage doors and stuff like that. And it's like his house. He makes YouTube videos. I can't remember the creator, but I was just like, man, you're so asking for it right now. Like a giant antenna coming off the roof and like point, and it's got a camera attached to it and it moves, so it points at someone's garage and like 2 blocks away opens it up. I'm like,
yeah,
right.
Well, and if you can blast it that far, you can capture somebody's code from that far. In general.
It depends on the transmitter. So the transmit of this guy is super strong, and obviously receive is, but mostly those transmitters are low power. So IR maybe, FM, something like that, possibly. But it's an interesting, it's a really neat tool and a toy. Like I haven't really played with it too deeply, but the level of control and to have like an all-in-one hardware platform that includes a software-defined radio, it's like this thing is people are making some amazing scripts that you're like, oh
Yeah.
boy, this is like a electronic toolkit. This like reminds me almost of like the Anarchist Cookbook of like how much naughty tools are all in one physical hardware platform. Like there's a GPIO that's attached that I've got the like a Wi-Fi accessory, so you can do like Wi-Fi attacks and like man in the middle stuff. And I mean, there's a whole lot of suite of stuff. And there's like a physical connector. It's like I forgot the name of it. It's like iCloud or something like that. That's like a physical slot slash key that's used in a lot of like, I don't know, various boxes. I haven't looked it up too much, but like security
Oh, the
boxes and
little
stuff
round
like that.
ones.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
it's.
see if I can
I don't know if
capture
it's
it on
RFID
here.
or if it's.
But it's this.
Yeah.
Well, there's an RFID component, but there's this like slot that's here. It's a
Yeah.
certain kind that has contacts on it. That's like a digital key, effectively. That a lot of people don't roll their own codes, so you can just unlock stuff like crazy. It's amazing to see what projects have come out of it. It's just like the ultimate dev box for various security stuff, and
Interesting.
I'm not surprised because I know it was like I think Customs and Borders and Customs like had a shipment that they locked down for the better part of a year. That's why there was like so hard to find for a while because
Yeah.
you know, it's a little
Right.
bit of a sketchy toy.
I mean, sure. I mean, security is as good as you make it, right? And if you've been like, well, nobody would ever figure out how to spoof garage door openers, like,
Mhm.
okay, nobody's ever going to figure out that Chevy only has 16 codes for their key fob. Like,
Mhm.
great.
It kind of brings like a question that I've always had, and like I really sit on the fence on this one of security, whether toys like the Flipper Zero or software platforms like Kali Linux. You're like, we are making it easier and easier for script kiddies to do nefarious things. Is there a level of responsibility that we should exercise, or are we just going to kind of go with the mutually assured destruction model, which seems to be our current motif?
Um,
Point it out and hope they fix it.
right. So if you're worried about script kiddies, you're worried about the wrong thing. Right? Increasingly, like script kiddies can wreak some havoc, but the same people that are exposing those things should be putting on their white hats and doing some things to make sure the script kiddie can't exploit. Those are actually relatively easy things. And to not expose the vulnerabilities is to leave the vulnerabilities in place, which means that the larger, more sophisticated actors, which probably already know about the vulnerabilities, can continue to exploit them.
Well, I think this is kind of my issue with security as a whole, is that there is this thought process, like the danger of script kiddies is usually like wiped aside because they're like, oh, they're just script kiddies, they won't get past your defenses. It's like in a big corporation, yes. At mom and pop businesses who can't afford a security team, that's the main targets of people who are just fucking around with the Flipper Zero and the like. It's like the innocent people or the small businesses who don't have the money to keep up with the current next gen whatever thing. And that's where I have the issue, is like we're giving toys into a community of people who could just be doing it for the lulz or with malicious intent, and we're kind of helping them do it.
Yeah. There's some risk there, but honestly, the best way to help that mom and pop shop is to get it into the wider audience so that it becomes like general release, right? Like the mom and pop shop that is like, well, I'm just a small business. I can't afford any security, or all I can afford is like, the modem from my ISP.
Mm-hmm. They don't even have IT people at all, and I've seen that.
I'm fine if they don't have IT people. And this is probably a good segue into the next topic. You can hire people, right? And you can hire good people. They're out there. The thing is, like, you don't go into business without an insurance policy. You don't go into business without an accountant, right?
You
like,
shouldn't. You absolutely can. You just
Yes,
kind of
and
shouldn't.
you will
But
get your hat handed to you when you go to file your taxes without an accountant as a small business. You're just asking for it, right? When you go into business without an insurance policy, like you can do business that way. It's an awful idea, and you get your hat handed to you. You you know you go into um, you go into business without IT help. You're asking for trouble.
yeah, I still I don't know. I'm still kind of torn on that because there is so like my wife was a street vendor over at we call Saturday Market and a couple others. It's very very common for businesses LLCs or they just form it under their own name to have a booth and they have a Square reader and that's about as far as she goes and like that's
Great.
a pretty
They bought
typical
IT
startup.
help. They bought Square,
Yeah, they
right?
really did.
Mhm.
Right?
It's
You
it's
go
part
ahead and
of it.
try to
Sure.
compromise Square.
Well, it's one of the things like having the more tools and toys they have, which is very common in that space. They just kind of buy stuff out of Best Buy. It's all default across the board. Not unlike people going into Best Buy and getting a Best Buy
Yeah.
special router or firewall or whatever access point. So, I just those are it's the kind of in between, and this is like not really a case of a crack as much as I would see is like it's most of at least 50% of America is these sort of small businesses that have very, very little in terms of certainly information security protection, but just IT support in general. And so releasing a tool like a Flipper Zero or Kali Linux and all these other things is just it's. I know there's people that get pwned and get destroyed for just for the lulz from people who otherwise would not have without if they didn't have a Flipper Zero they just wouldn't have done the thing.
Sure.
How
I
big
mean,
that is, I don't know. But
it's a risky world, right?
yeah.
And this is where I want to segue into MSPs, right? MSPs, corner IT shops, are they security professionals? No. Do they know it better than the mom and pop business? Yeah. And it's a good place to start.
Sometimes. I would almost argue sometimes is because if you're bottom of the barrel, because I worked for a couple of bad MSPs, and it's like, well, if I'm gonna sell you a bulletproof vest that is made of fleece, and then you go out in the world thinking you have a bulletproof vest, it's like I can take the hit. It's like
Better to be lucky
actually
than
true.
good.
Yeah,
Sorry.
it's the lucky part. Because I've seen places like, I called it in a recent speech I gave. I call it negative value. It's like you are paying for something, and the contractor, MSP, or the full time employee is so bad that they actively like make your business worse. And
Oh, I've worked
like,
for MSPs. I've had colleagues at MSPs where
Mhm.
that has been true, and I
and not
I
to
mean,
just pick on MSPs, other full timers suck ass too. It's
yeah, but
across
like
the board.
the difference between a full timer at a business that has employed their own full time IT staff, like that's their internal problem. When a business goes to an MSP, they've acknowledged that they need the assistance,
Mhm.
right? It's like going. This is the part where I wish that there were some kind of governing body over IT, which I
Yeah.
hate myself for saying that. But like you don't go to a doctor or you can go to a doctor who's not board certified, but I wouldn't,
Mm-hmm.
right?
And that's because there's so many standards in the IT field. It's like what is the thing? And that's where we go back to the word of mouth. It's like that's the only thing that seems to be somewhat mostly reliable, but definitely not standardized. But there's like 50 standards, which means there's no standards whatsoever because we have. I mean, something as simple as A+ certification is supposed to mean that you have an idea about computers, but there's people that have that and don't know what a video card is, and there's people who've never had certs and they could just rock everything.
No, sir.
Well, and how many different variants would we need in IT of this certification process?
Right.
thousands.
Right? No, like
Yeah, we already have that basically.
I
Everyone's
hear
got
ya.
their own
I hear
certification program,
So-
or whatever the fuck that means.
Here's what I'll say is that as an industry, we are really young,
Yeah.
right? Most
Yeah.
young industries don't have any kind of certification process. And we will probably hold it off for a long time because we will point to the certifications that we have as like, oh no, we're certified. No, we're not. Not in a way that means something to a customer, right? Not in a way that a customer can have a reasonable assurance and can be held up as like useful from a liability standpoint.
Well, most other industry certs, it's basically did the check clear? Can you pass a simple test?
I mean,
Have you not gotten into trouble lately? That's
you're
Some of those,
that's what most of them are.
I've
I mean-
I've had. I would say the one thing that I do like about the medical field is overwhelmingly you have a test you have to take. They call it the didactic portion, and then you have the like skills test in which you actually have to lay hands on a patient and show that you know where their mouth is and where their butt is, and they are not in the same spot. You know, you have. I like and they call them psychomotor skills. It's like, yes, are you checking a pulse on the middle of the chest? Like that's not how you do that. We don't. Our realm is almost entirely virtual, so there's no like putting your hands on the right keyboard button.
Yeah, and there's no way to make that relevant for what we do and what we have without just turning into a bunch of individual certs, which is what we have now.
right.
Or a parallel process for all those exact same things, but it happens to be some board that runs it somewhere or some governmental body that like what does that gain us? Absolutely
Right.
nothing.
Right.
Well, and you also
Yeah,
have oh, I was going to say what Kat had talked about a little bit earlier is like there are idiot savants in every field to include tech, and just like, wow, that person didn't need to have certs, and they got the server whipped into shape, and then they've band-aided it so much that when you finally open it up, it's just like spiders everywhere. You're like, I'm like, oh, what'd you do? You broke it. It was like, oh.
It was already broken.
Yeah, I know. I worked at a computer shop too. It's like you open it up and it's like on fire, and they're like, "Oh, it was fine when I brought it in." I'm like, "You're so full of shit. Like this thing is trashed."
If it was fine when you brought it in, why'd you bring it in?
And I've
Well,
asked
it's my
that
fault.
question
It's my
again.
fault when 6 months ago I worked on it and you took it home. But I was the
Right.
last person that touched it.
Right.
Besides every
So-
day.
We've had conversations about MSPs and how like some are okay and some are not. I don't think we've really ever gotten into what it takes to be a good MSP. And I'm not talking about like what are our standards for what makes a good MSP. I'm talking about what does it take for the people working at that MSP to stay a good MSP every day. Like I can think of a couple of things, but Catherine, you
shit.
worked for one. Give a
that?
shit helps.
That's a big one. I would say the other one is I like to make sure that whatever you're selling is what you actually can deliver, even if like because I think the temptation is to always oversell. Like we're gonna change the world. It's like just say, hey, we'll give you basic level support. It might take us a day to get back to you, and then be within that SLA. But don't hang yourself. But then offer fairer prices. If
Sure.
you don't
Sell
want
an
a premium
appropriate
service.
solution for a need that the company has.
Yep.
Don't sell them
Sure.
a Cadillac when they need a Honda.
Yep.
Catherine, how about you?
Ah.
What do you do to stay on the right side of this game?
So me personally, very little.
Okay.
My hand in the MSP part of our company is pretty limited, and that's a self-imposed limit.
Fair.
But that's kind of part of it, right? Is self-restriction. Is you don't put your hand in a cookie jar that you have no idea what you're doing. I
I'd
think
prefer
that's
not to. There's sometimes when people tell me that I need to, but to be honest, if I've never been somewhere and I'm not familiar with their system, I don't always see how I'm helpful, although that's my imposter syndrome because, well, it turns out to be something that I was definitely capable of handling, and it just takes me longer to find out. I think it's helpful that I don't necessarily feel the need to bill for every second of me trying to figure out something that I was supposed to know. But
I think that's actually one of the things that you hit on is a good MSP doesn't bill you for every minute.
no,
Right,
and we don't have to spend 2 minutes on something to make it an hour bill. Like
Mhm.
that's probably one of the most disgusting things that I find out about from companies that we're taking over as their MSP or even just their whatever support. Is like, oh well, if we had to ask a question, it was like an hour worth of billing, and that just makes people not ask you questions. So what happens when you haven't interacted with your customer about any of the problems that they're having because they don't want to spend the money? That means
Mhm.
eventually you just have a giant mess that you could
Right.
have maybe extinguished a long time ago.
Mhm.
But it's complicated. It's hard to have enough people that are aware of and familiar with that company that can jump in possibly at any given time. Um, I don't necessarily know that we are in the right, spot for that sometimes. And there's a
Right.
lot of sausage making that I don't think customers see.
Well,
Like,
that's like
you
kind of
don't
part
know
of
what's
it,
going
right?
on back behind the
Yeah.
door. Somehow it's working.
Right.
That's the mark of any true like craftsperson, right? Is you don't necessarily have to see how the sausage is made, just know that it's being made. And and I consider that a mark of a true master of any kind is like to know what your limitations are, and that's just part of being a good business person, a good person at all. And like because I've had people ask me for like my tech skills, like how are you with email and databases? I'm like, if you're asking me for it, you're in a world of hurt and you ain't getting out. Like I suck.
I don't
So
know anything
don't.
about databases and email. Sometimes I can make that work, sometimes on some level.
I don't admit to knowing anything about email.
But that's part of being.
Because
If
you
you're
don't
an
want to be
MSP,
responsible for it.
yeah. I actually
I've
really
been that
like
guy.
it. I really like it when companies or products have a thing that says not only like who this is for, but who this is not for. I
Hmm.
really think that that takes a level of courage and self reflection or reflection as a product and a company of like, yeah, if you're this type of person, like we won't be able to support you well. We can try
Sure.
if you want, but like that's a level of like, yeah, we're not for you. You know, you do like a car restoring company and someone brings a truck in, and you're like, yeah, we don't do trucks. Like I like it
Right.
when people do that personally because it's like, yeah, it's hey, I could have tried, but I would have done a shitty job. If you want me to try and do a shitty job, that's fine, but I am mea culpa. Like you understand, this is a gamble.
It's interesting. I actually, when working for an MSP, um, I was the reason that that a new customer signed with us. Um,
Mhm.
our salespeople went in, they talked about stuff, and they came back and like, yeah, this person's like this and this. I'm like, oh yeah, so they've got these needs. Like, you want to come to the next meeting? I was like, I will go wherever you tell me to because I work for you.
Mhm.
Um, so I sat down and I was able to speak the language of their business because I knew something about it. And um, apparently, we were the only offering that had anybody that showed up that knew something about their business and was candid about what they knew and didn't know, right? Like, because they
Mhm.
absolutely had people like, oh, yeah, we totally get your stuff, but like very clearly didn't understand um, some of the core concepts. They were actually um, an investment advisor.
Mhm.
So, like, understanding concepts of like fiduciary responsibility and like handling reporting correctly and um, keeping control of account information and all that. Like, for a
Mhm.
small business, like a lot of business, like, oh, it's just another accounting firm. Not
Mhm.
really. Nope. Oh, you just
Like
like move money around. Like, nope, that's not it either. So yeah, knowing what you can do and what you can't, and being honest about that is huge, I think.
And I think that kind of goes into like Brian's statement of like we say, give a shit. I really think that has like even more weight behind it and can really be expanded on because I've worked at a hospital in security and like they were having issues with workstations that were meant to be. It was a security product that had was meant for one user, one computer, and at a hospital, especially in like a nursing ward or something, multiple nurses will use the same PC, and it was having issues. And it's like, yeah, this product should never have been used in this environment at all. So we are trying to put the square peg in the round hole, and because the vendor and everyone involved in that chain didn't talk to they didn't give a shit about the business. It's a business. It's just someone else. Like, this is a different user base, and because of my experience as a paramedic and EMT, it's like, I can tell you why this is not working. And they're like, but the tech's all working. I'm like, the people do not use this like you think they do because you've never set foot in a fucking hospital, and it's obvious, and you don't care.
I'm so triggered from my medical IT.
Yeah.
Now, to be fair, there's a lot of medical assholes. Like, doctors are assholes.
Yeah,
Sorry.
that's
Sorry,
definitely
not
part of
sorry.
the reason why I refuse to work in a medical IT department ever again.
Yeah, you want to have fun with hot and cold people? Go work in IT for a medical clinic or hospital. You will get all kinds of people. Yeah, if you can bear the sanity of it,
I
you'll
may
get a lot of
or
experience.
I may or may not know a guy, IT guy, that punched a doctor in his office for the attitude that he gave him.
I just want to say that this was a mental health facility, and when they told me that if I lost my shit due to my job, that my insurance didn't cover my stay there, I was basically done. I was like, what do you mean? When I go crazy because of this job, you tell me I can't even stay here?
Nope.
I mean, you'd give the secrets away.
Like, yeah, don't you ever call on call about your inability to print color pages at 3 a.m.
Jeez.
Ooh, that's
You'll be
actually
on
a good.
someone's shit list.
Hey, Catherine, that actually reminds me. Here's another one for snake oil people. They don't eat their own dog food. It's like, we make products for the home. Like, do you use it? Oh, fuck no. Like, people with Amazon or Google or stuff, they're like, oh, I don't have those pieces of shit in my house. It's like, uh-oh.
Yeah,
You
which
shouldn't
probably
either.
was a good sign that I didn't need to do
Yeah.
inpatient there.
Wait, are you
But-
saying that U.S. senators are snake oil salesmen?
Yeah.
This
All-
healthcare is good enough for everybody. Do
But
you
we're
use it?
exempt.
No.
Can I have your healthcare? Oh, fuck no, you can't. No, ours is awesome.
Oh no.
We like that stuff. We don't want.
You
Yeah,
can't
the
afford
fact
that. You can barely afford to pay for it for us.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's.
well, you know,
And I
some
think that's
people
probably
just gotta
been like a-
settle on not making as much money. What's your pay raise been every year?
Mhm. Well, I that's actually like a really funny one because I've had some encounters in the wild of like equipment or stuff that people have either tried to sell. I'm like, do you use it? And they'll be like, no. I'm like, ooh. And I think there was like a.
You ever
it was
had
a
somebody
relatively,
say, "I would if I could afford it"?
I've those are better ones, but these were like junior salespeople that didn't know. They're like, oh no, and I was like, and it wasn't like a I can't afford it. It was like they're like, oh, like disgusted. They're like, oh no. I was like, and then it was like they were like, oh, they kind of like had that moment like
They
oh, shit, I
realized what they
wasn't-
did. Yeah.
Yeah, like a
You
full on
shouldn't have said
Freudian
that out
slip.
loud.
Yeah, it's like it was a full Freudian slip. Where it was like, oh, this piece of shit. Oh, I mean, no, it's great. And they tried to, recover the fumbled football. I was like, no, man, you move on. Like, you go try the next person.
I think it's something to be said if you are like, I'm gonna sell shit that I don't even like. Like that's gonna be my profession. I'm gonna sell shit that I don't even like.
Yeah,
That takes a special kind of person.
Well,
Takes a salesperson.
That's one of
psychopath is what
Well,
straight up sociopath
you can be a
psychopath.
salesperson and not be like that. Because I'm a salesperson.
Yeah,
But
I've done it. I've done
I don't
sales.
think I'm.
No, I mean,
I've never
Catherine,
sold anything that I wouldn't have bought from myself.
you are a person that sells. I would place you in a different class of people than what people typically think of as a salesperson. I know you don't have a gambling problem. I have never met
Currently or
a
before?
salesperson. No, yes,
Uh-oh.
I've never met a salesperson that didn't have. It's not so much a gambling problem as it is a lifestyle.
Chris, I have something I have to admit. I love gambling. I love it. I am
Travis,
definitely a salesperson.
it doesn't surprise me at all.
No, love it.
Um,
I'm indifferent.
Never
on it.
walked away from a table with a plus because I just like I'm up. I'm just gonna like roll everything on it. It never
Right.
works out.
So-
It's-
and what I discovered is like, because I've worked for businesses that employed a lot of salespeople, you get them together at a conference, they will find
Dangerous.
a gambling opportunity and they will take it. And then you're like, oh, you gamble a lot. Like, no, not too bad. I'm like, okay. Like, yeah, I hit the casino once or twice a year. Like, okay, but what about your like Saturday night poker game? Well, that's
What about
just fun.
What about my love for $5 scratch off tickets, the crossword ones?
There it is.
No, not gambling.
There it is.
Nope.
It is giving money away, hoping to get more back. I believe
That's
that's
gambling.
gambling.
No.
That's gambling.
Right. No. Gambling is putting money down on the belief that you're going to get it back. It's not a hope.
I was gambling. Okay, I was gambling.
I'll have to.
With you on that, Cat.
I'll have
It's
to.
gambling. It's
I'll
fine.
have to find us a good
I
salesperson.
sold those $2 crosswords all day long, and I knew that nobody had brought in a winner. So guess what I was doing before I was leaving work? Buying the next 5.
Smart.
The odds
It's an
must have
investment.
increased.
It's an investment.
I know the winner's still in that role.
That's gambling.
See, and like the salesperson would have been like, "Oh, what do you mean? Somebody just brought a winner in? That's all right. The next one will be a winner too, because
Nope,
it's
that's
mine."
not how that shit works.
If you are a salesperson or a hardcore gambler, it is.
I'm just saying,
These are people that are convinced that regardless of what the statistics say, they are going to win. And
Trust
that's
me.
why they gamble.
I've heard all of those people tell me their reasons. And when they spent hundreds of dollars, yes, I bought the next one.
That's
We're
that's
gonna
not
be the
a
winners, and we'll be the ones taken off to
So-
Fiji and Tahiti.
how much money did you lose before you figured out that it didn't work that way?
See, I never had a lot of money to spend at that time, but I was probably spending more than I should have. I don't know. We're talking like 20 years ago.
Sure.
I don't remember. I was having a home and food and gas in my car, so I mean, it could have been worse. But I'm
I
not.
can say,
I'm not.
I can say for
didn't
certain.
avoid
I'm going to.
gambling.
Yeah, if I'm going to like a poker table, I'll definitely lose. If I'm going to a blackjack table, I'll be up by like double my money, and then I'll burn that all down before the end. But I'm getting free drinks the whole time, which I'm like, that's fair. This isn't about. It's kind of weird to say, but it's not about the money, and that's like the salesperson side of me is like, it's like high score. Like when I get job offers, I have a wall of like my job offers, and I only care about getting that number ratcheted up. Like. I don't actually care about the money that much. It's like high score in Mario. Like yeah, 120K. Let's go 140 next time. Like
I care about the money, which is why I do not enjoy gambling with Brian.
Because I don't care and I always win and she always loses.
And I care.
I sit down. I don't give a shit, so I just sit down next to the machine that she sits at, and I win. She almost walked out of the casino on me like the first time we went.
Wait. Are you guys
Would I
playing
make
slots?
$600-700, something like that? Like in
nice.
half an hour, and she was losing everything,
Yep.
and I just sit down next to her, hit a couple buttons, and then walk away. And I just kept winning and winning and winning and winning. Every time I put money in a machine, I'd win more money.
And the best
You know what?
time
I can cool that for you.
we walked out
Yeah.
ahead together.
Paid for the whole weekend.
when we were tired of wearing masks and we were like, that's it. We're leaving this stupid casino because it's like a hot, wet diaper. So we actually both walked out ahead the time that we left before we would have normally.
Nice. So I'm going to tell all of you, you should play craps.
No, I just like slot machines with all their
Best odds,
all their noises and lights.
I mean, if it's entertainment you're after, play the slots. They're more entertaining than anything.
Well, that's why I like crossword puzzle scratch-offs.
Right. That's why I say you're not gambling. I would say that you are paying for entertainment. It's a
saying,
weird form of entertainment.
I'm bored.
Right. It's like
I'll say, Chris, as like the inner salesman side is like, I avoid gambling generally because I'm walking away there either $1 million in my pocket or zero. And that $1 million never happens. So I just kind of like pull out a certain amount of money, like $200 or something for like a blackjack table. I'm like, this is what I get. There's no pulling of any of the other cards. When this is over, the fun's over. And however long I can ride that out is like, that's the fun part for me. It's like if I get 8 hours on a table with drinks that are being fed to me for free, what used to happen to some places, like, dope. $200 is totally worth that.
$200 for entertainment.
Entertainment and drinks.
Fine.
I'm good with that. Yeah. But riding the highs and the lows, that's what makes the degenerate gambler inside me so happy. It's like when you win, ooh, it hits so hard, but when you lose, it's like, oh, we're gonna do it next time. Like, nah, not really.
Only gonna spend 3 more times, max bet, then we're out.
Exactly.
If you can
gotta enforce those hard caps though.
With $200, and when that $200 is gone, you can be done.
No.
Yeah, I've like worked on like that willpower effort to make sure I don't, because I wasn't as good as that when I was younger, and now I'm like, yeah, that's my kryptonite. Is like if the people, especially if it's like good friends out drinking, like Brian knows, he's met me in person now. It's like, I'll talk your friggin' ear off. You add drinks and gambling to it, and it's a party. Oh, I'll stay up all night. Oh, this is gonna be a good time. Yeah, I make bad decisions.
All right. Speaking of bad decisions, this is total non sequitur. We got 10 minutes on our typical clock, and I want to cover our last item.
All right.
Perfect tense, and not the Mary Lou Retton kind.
Oh.
Perfect tense in which way?
When Google comes out with the CVSS.
Yes, yeah.
10.0.
The WebM.
I mean, they stuck the landing. So I'm going to start this off with that news. Catherine, did you get any customers come in saying, I'm worried about this new threat?
No, and in fact, I told my boss about it, and he stopped listening to me in the middle of but Brian's really concerned about it, because I knew that might actually mean something. And he was like, anyways, I have been checking more closely about making sure that your browsers are up to date and that your search engines aren't weird, but that's about all I've done.
I think there's going to be a level of like when something, this kind of reminds me or very much of the Log4j incident, is like if I was a bad person and I wanted to exploit some of these libraries and it's as prolific as it's supposed to be, I would be going for high value targets. People are going to net me the millions of my big paycheck rather than like people's individual computers or small mom and pop shops. And that's kind of how I advocate and advise for the smaller ones. Is like the
how many
likeliness
of those millionaires are you going to find?
You only need one.
Only takes one.
Well,
but you can exploit like 30 sets of grandparents for all they have in their checking just as easily.
Right.
And that's what I mean.
Particularly if you're a script kiddie.
Yeah, if you're exploiting like a known, like the WebP thing that came out recently, it's like, okay, it's so endemic that assume everyone's a target at that point, and that's kind of a fair assessment. It's like if you had your free choice of who you're going to hack or attempt to get their money.
Everybody. It's carpet bombing.
Yes.
And
Agreed.
so, but you have limited resources. You have one computer, let's say, just for the sake of argument, is like you're going to be targeting things that are going to make the most sense as opposed to something that's just going to be like shotgunning is not as easy as it could be when you're talking about exploits. It does
So,
take resources, and you
what
make a
I'll
lot of
say,
noise.
what I'll say is for the malicious actors should tune out of the program at this point.
Yeah, we're fucking onto you.
The shotgun approach is actually more likely to net you a cherry target because you're more likely to exploit somebody who can get you access on their personal device.
It
An
depends on
unsecured
the nature
personal
of the
device,
attack.
right? Bridgehead, get a bridgehead, even if it's
I mean
social
that as a
bridgehead.
sense of like it's not free. These
Yeah.
attacks, if you shotgun like a million attacks all at the same time, it's like you can't just do that on like your cell phone or some shit like that.
No,
like you're
no, and the malicious actors
you've got a
aren't doing
dedicated
that.
threat actor.
They're even the tiny ones. Like if you're going after this exploit, you're renting time on a bot farm, right? You're like, and you are putting an investment forward to do it. Absolutely. The price is not that high. Like it's ridiculous how low the price is to get time on some of these things.
So the
But you're-
exploits I deal with aren't actually exploits. So everything that I talk about is completely different. There's barely any resources needed.
It's all
to fool
wetware
grandma.
exploits.
Well, they all start in the same place, like exploiting the WebP thing, right? Like that gets you into grandma's browser and lets you pop up bullshit onto grandma's computer or lock up her
Call
pictures
Microsoft
or
right
whatever.
now. You have
Right?
a Trojan horse.
Right. Call Microsoft at this number. Click here for help. Oh, your pictures are corrupted.
Mm-hmm.
You're
That's
wanted by the
social
FBI.
engineering.
Here's your picture.
Oh, that one totally really.
Well, and that
hurt
kind
my
of goes
feelings.
into like security and like MSPs. Is like realistically, everyone when a score of 10 comes out on something, people freak the fuck out. And I'm like, I get it. It's bad. We should patch it out. Most stuff tends to get patched relatively quickly. But if I'm a bad guy, and let's say that I am for the sake that I definitely haven't done this, is like phishing of any kind, email phishing or my vishing that I do is infinitely more effective than trying to granularly cut my way into your security system. Be like, hey, Catherine, give me your password. And they're like, all right, here it is. I'm like, oh, sweet. Okay. No need to.
Thanks for
slice
giving me
and
your
dice
email
DLLs.
password. Now I can figure out everything else.
Right. And so they're like, because I get a lot of people asking
Good
me
luck,
stuff.
because I can't find things in my Gmail account.
Nobody can.
It's a search.
It's just people are very worried about when these scores come out, and that I mean the scores themselves are pretty much arbitrary. It's whatever they feel is the right number, and a lot of these the CVSS numbers are like, okay, if you have a box with Kali on it, and you're using Ghidra, and you're like, and you got all this deep knowledge that goes beyond Script Kiddie, then you can exploit this. I'm like, okay, that's not, or you pick up a phone with an Indian scammer and you get grandma's credit card for $10K in like 5 minutes. It's like, what do you think people are gonna pick?
Yeah.
I'll give you a hint: the money one, calling grandma.
Path of least resistance.
Mm-hmm.
It's that just kind of makes it inherently difficult for me to take stuff like the CVSS seriously as much, because you look at like how do you exploit it and you're like, you'd have to be a fucking world-class expert or something. You'd have to be very, very good to effectively do this.
Or a world-class expert has to build an exploit kit and put it up for sale. And that's how they make their money. They're not going after the $1 million target. They're not going after grandma's pension, right?
Is that
They're
gambling
going
then? If somebody buys that in hopes that they can make more?
I mean, everything is inherently gambling.
Yeah, kind of.
Right? Like at some point, everything is gambling. Like I think that I'm going to get paid for the work I do. So I go to work, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or I think I can make it in computers.
I might get my paycheck. Someone's trying to really hard to tell my boss I have a new direct deposit account all the time.
There you go. I mean, and you got the cops being called on you. Like, who knows?
Mhm.
You could get
Gotta
arrested.
control. Yeah. I mean, every time, just being in customer service, I almost thought of it as gambling. That's what made it fun for me. It's like, it was a game whenever someone would walk in and be like, all right, what do you guys think? Do you think this is an asshole? Do you think it's going to be someone cool? Is this a big spender? Is this a cheapo?
You missed that about my sales job. Definitely, where you're all just sitting in the back waiting for the next person to come in. And it's like, that guy looks like all you, Bob.
Yeah.
Get him.
Yeah, that one looks like a big fat L that you're getting no sale there, buddy. You go
And
eat
you
this
didn't
one.
pay for your lunch yesterday, so that's yours.
And then when you make the big sale, you roll back in, you're like, hey guys. They're like, ah.
Mm-hmm.
But that's, I don't know, that was half the fun too. But you do that in
I-
customer service jobs. You just kind of like, I don't know, there's like an inherent gambling of like, there's absolutely no value in it whatsoever, but you kind of like prejudge people as they walk through and you're like, all right, I think I got to read. I think this is going to be a big fish. Let me approach
I love
differently.
being
And I
the
will
guy
absolutely
that
change who
wrecks
I am.
those games. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
I loved being surprised when I was wrong as a salesperson.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Depends on the
right.
surprise.
How wrong was the Subaru salesman in Waukesha?
That guy is fucking dumb. I'm just really inconvenienced by the fact that I have to drive 40 minutes away for competent help.
Yeah, so like, man, it must have been 15 years ago. I went to the Subaru dealership in town here, tried to buy a car. He didn't want to talk to me. He didn't want to let me drive it. Basically, didn't want to sell me the car. Went to the other Subaru dealership that's like 45 minutes away. Bought the car that I wanted.
Mhm.
And I think I've bought maybe 5 more new cars from the same place over the years. I've never set foot in that other dealership again.
That's not true.
Because of
When
one
I
shitty
have
salesman.
recalls that I don't have to pay for,
You
then
step foot in it. I
you
haven't
had to
gone
drop
in
me
there.
off.
No.
Did
If
I?
you've got recalls on a vehicle, you should absolutely take it to the dealership that you dislike. Like,
Yeah,
take their labor, man.
yeah. It's not costing me
They get
anything.
reimbursed, but probably at a lower rate, I bet.
You are stealing money from them
Mhm.
I'm
legally.
glad that you pointed
You're
that
like
out.
government
I
grade
thought
at
I was
that
doing
point.
the right thing by
Yeah.
giving them the shit work. And it's closer.
It's a lot closer.
Yeah, but they're never going to. And now because I went there, they think that we're going to buy a car and all this fun stuff from them.
Nope. They can eat my
Bad.
entire ass.
That's really generous of you.
Yeah,
Yes.
I was gonna say if they
I typically
Here's-
only give them the stinky part, but
yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
So here's snake oil salesperson. If they did path to redemption or permanently in the burn pile,
Well, they're
They'll never have
permanently
an
in the burn
opportunity
pile.
to try.
fair enough. All right, no path to redemption
Yeah.
is what Brian's saying.
some
I mean, maybe if your other Subaru place, like, I don't know, closed down, what would you do? Would you go farther? Or would you circle
Like go
back?
the other direction or something. I don't
Mhm.
know.
Oh my God. See,
No.
now this affects my life.
He's a man of principle. I respect that.
hey,
I do the same thing.
bridges can't be unburnt.
I had someone say an amazing thing in the hacker group when I did something crazy. It was like, "May the glow of the burning bridge light your path." I was like, "That is so
I
poetic
love
and
it.
beautiful." I really like that.
Yeah, but see, then you're backlit and you're an easier target.
Well, if you properly burn the bridge while the people are on it, an irrelevant statement.
Stay off the ridge line. I don't know what your problem is.
Yep.
There's just something very like majestic, like the burning of the bridge, like lights your path forward. I'm like, oh, that's nice. I like that. I'm gonna keep that one.
My back is warm as I walk away.
Because cool guys don't look at explosions.
Oh. I was thinking cool like
That's-
temperature.
That's how I. That's how
Yeah,
you
it's
know
fun.
I'm not cool.
Explosions
walk-
are awesome.
Totally
You
look
walk
back.
away
Look out.
slowly and you don't turn around.
Mm-hmm. He can throw the match like over the back shoulder and not even the no look.
He still has
Stop.
his eyebrows and everything.
No, that's
Oh,
how
yeah.
you save your eyebrows is back over your shoulder
True.
If it's hot enough.
or your beard.
This is important. This is critical information.
my God.
People that like fire and still have their beard, You should hang around those people.
Well, you haven't set your face on fire yet. You're pretty good at this.
I would like you to come be my firefighter.
Yeah, see, they make it really hard for you to tell that with firefighters because they require them to stay clean shaven, as if they can't make a mask that works with a beard.
Yeah.
They kind of can. Not really. It's difficult.
It's called a brass
Steel-
diving bell. It's fine.
The steel is not going to be the same.
Wait until that thing starts heating up.
The what?
Can be
Oh,
toasty.
that's not helpful.
All right. Well, it's getting late.
So,
Yeah,
well, thank you all.
good run.
I'm getting sleepy.
Mm-hmm.
Catherine, thank you for joining us.
Just start doing that.
Yeah.
Dang it.
Thanks for having me. I did not think that I was going to be able to hang in your chat because most of the time I don't know what the fuck y'all talking about.
Don't worry, we don't either.
Oh,
We're
Yeah.
just making this shit
perfect.
up.
Then I'm going to start commenting more.
Once again,
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. We might be
Fact
full of
check
BS.
everything,
Always
yes.
check the facts yourself.
Through a reputable source, not some sketchy website or forum you found.
Well, Brian
Ah.
hasn't fixed all of Reddit yet, so there's still a chance you can
No.
find bullshit.
Yeah.
right?
Sometimes.
Yes.
Not
On
in the
that note-
networking or Palo Alto for subreddits if I can help it.
That's when you know you're at the bottom of the barrel. You're like, all right, we're in desperate times. This is not looking good. I'm on Reddit forums.
Yeah. Well,
It's just good, clean fun.
Yeah. Or gems sometimes.
yeah. I go there to answer questions, not to ask them.
Oh, you're that guy. Oh, thank you,
Yeah.
contributor.
Hey,
Cedar.
somebody's got to do it, right?
Yep.
All right. On that note, have a wonderful evening.
All
Thank
right.
you all for
All
attending.
right. Thank you, everyone. See you hopefully sooner than 3 months from now.
Yeah.
Not going to promise
Before
anything.
2024, can we do it maybe this year? Can you say that much?
Sure. Before
Yeah.
2024.
Pretty solid. Yeah.
Yeah.
SLA has
Thank you,
been read.
everyone.